Hello and welcome back to Speed Model. As promised last week, what we're going to continue doing today is to add more details to the room. And eventually, when we are done, hopefully everything will look and feel more alive. You're watching another episode of Speed Model. Our first order of business is to fix up the ceiling. I wanted to build your typical office style ceiling with the removable tiles, so I begin by first subdividing the ceiling into 1x1 meter squares. Then I grab all the little squares on the surface, extrude them ever so slightly, and then scale down each face just a smidge. This makes each face just a little smaller than the rest of the mesh above it, creating that very typical pattern. By assigning the inner and outer parts to different materials, I can emphasize this effect by creating color contrast. With that done, I begin to remove certain squares off the ceiling. These will be for lights. This step takes a while as I have to evenly distribute the lights in each room. I start off with the cubicle room, eventually plunging myself into the room itself to see what it all looks like from the inside. I experiment with assigning area lights to each one of the lamps and messing with the lighting on the exterior as well to see how the look and feel changes. You can see me going through a lot of back and forth, testing up different setups and even recreating the ceiling because things just didn't look right. I tweaked many settings for many reasons, rendering was starting to become slow and I wasn't really all that happy with how things looked just yet. The settings I eventually settled with are simple point lights for each lighting panel. With that decided, I began carving out lights everywhere in the office, placing a point light near each of them. I also took some time to replace the sunlights that were originally outside the window with spotlights. They would have the same effect, casting shadows through the blinds, but would be far easier to control. With all the lights figured out, it's time to move on to populate each screen. Since there are many of those, 14 in fact, we're gonna have to spend some time designing them. I begin by designing 4 generic looking desktops using my own photography as wallpapers and some public domain clip art to serve as the icons. Since this is meant to be some kind of studio, I had also wanted some desktops to be in the process of video editing. As such, I create several variants of a very generic looking video editing program. Unfortunately, I lost some footage here, so we'll have to jump ahead to the next part, setting up a skybox. Before I do that, however, I start off by putting cubes around the office doors. This creates the illusion of a corridor leading out from the door, instead of opening out into nothingness. Then, for the skybox itself, I tried to go with this very nice panorama you see of a city at dusk. Unfortunately, due to its scale, I had some trouble positioning it well. In addition, its colors also meant that I had to do away with the lighting effects with the blinds, and I wasn't quite sure if I was okay with that. After some attempts to fix the positioning, I eventually switched to another panorama, the same one from the last season of Speed Model. This one I knew would work for sure, since it was mostly sky. To make up for the somewhat abrupt ending, here, have a few more renders than usual. I rediscovered the panorama rendering option in Blender, and I've been trying to see what new angles I could come up with. As you can see, the details really took away the sterile feel and made the place feel more friendly and alive. And there you have it. We can finally move on to actually building the 2 remaining rooms, and yeah, basically call it a day. The renders are starting to get a bit slower, which, sort of tells us that we have reached that critical mass. So yeah, we are very close to actually wrapping up the entire series now. Maybe 1 or 2 more episodes is probably enough. Anyway, that's all there is for this particular episode of Speed Model. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, you're watching 0612 TV. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked this video, consider checking out the rest of my work on my channel. Alternatively, you may be interested in the last season of Speed Model. If you'd like to show me some monetary support, I am on Patreon. You can find a link to my campaign in the video description. Of course, you can simply like this video or leave a comment. I'll be sure to respond as soon as I can. To keep in touch with my future uploads, do subscribe to this channel. And for even more updates, check out the official Twitter account for this channel at 0612TV. Thank you for your support.